Hi everyone, my name is Gina and my presentation is on the Workers' Union, Second Wave Feminism, and Norma Rae. What is a union? So for those of you who are not very familiar with what a union is, here's a simple definition. A union is an organized group of workers who collectively use their strength to have a voice in their workplace. Through a union, workers have the right to impact wages, work hours, benefits, workplace health and safety, job training, and other work-related issues. Under U.S. law, workers of all ages have the right to join a union. Having support from the union to ensure fairness and respect in the workplace is one of the key reasons workers organize. So the reason I felt it was important to tell you what a union is to understand why someone would want to join a union and why in the film Norma Rae thought it was important to join a union. Okay. Benefits of a union. More money on average than non-union workers, healthcare, voices heard, safer work environments, and guaranteed pensions. The factory Norma Rae worked at had several problems. It is easy to see why these benefits would be so appealing to all workers, not just women. Okay. Next, second wave feminism. Second wave feminism began in the early 1960s. The movement grew with legal victories such as the movements passed in the 1960s, including the Equal Pay Act of 1963, which established equality of pay for men and women performing equal work. Then we have Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 became a law, and it banned employment discrimination on account of race, sex, by unions, private businesses, and employment agencies. And lastly, we have the National Organization for Women, also known as NOW, which became the first civil rights organization for women and was created by Betty Friedan. Often credited as well, what we learned in our class was the feminine mystique, which showed the struggles and frustrations many women faced working in the household. So Norma Rae definitely goes in the category of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as well as many of the things that were being published, like the feminine mystique, because although she was working class, she was struggling with many of the household issues and frustrations many women were facing. So next, we have the goals of feminists in the 1960s and 1970s. Okay, so abortion rights. Women wanted reproductive freedom and the ability to use contraception. Education. Suburban lifestyles downplayed women's education and the importance of women in the workplace and in society. Equality legislation. This was accomplished through the Equal Pay Act, Equal Rights Amendment, and other laws that set equality in place. And then the change of women's roles, the push for education, equal rights in the workplace set the stage for a shift in thinking towards women's roles. So Norma Rae goes in the category of equality within the workplace, equality legislation, and the rethinking of women's roles within the household. Okay, Norma Rae summary. So this is set in Opelika, Alabama in the late 70s. Norma is a worker at a textile factory. Short breaks, they're treated poorly, have no windows within the workplace, and cannot take time off, even if ill. And she actually loses her father to the lack of, I guess you could say, management help in the film. So this is important because it just shows that there is a big disconnect between the workers and the employees, and most employees are worried that if they do speak out, they will get fired. So this kind of just pushes Norma Rae over the edge when her father passes away, and she just knows that she has to do something. Okay, so this is just a little quote that I thought kind of tied into both the movie and what we were talking about with the feminist movement. So, a change in the household. Meanwhile, the consumer economy developed more and more things that families felt they needed, which could no longer acquire on the salary of a single breadwinner. Norma was a part of the workforce trying to keep up with the consumer economy, and although she had 3 children and was married, she was expected to work outside of the household to help financially support the family. So, she is definitely on both ends of the spectrum for this. Okay, here's a few things in the film that stood out and showed as to why these workers felt they needed to join a union. It was set in a small town, which added to the threat of being jobless if fired because job opportunities were limited. Low pay and poor work environment, especially for African Americans, shows that Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was not being abided by in the film, and management plots against African Americans at the factory. The management was trying to convince other workers that they were trying to take over. So, just something to note. Lastly, how does Norma Rae relate to the women of this era? Norma Rae was working class. She wanted more for herself, yet had 3 children to care for. She was a union worker. was expected to have roles inside and outside of the household and push for equality in the workplace with fairness for everyone. So she's a great example of a second wave feminist because she wanted more for herself and was pushing for a better work environment for not only women, but for everyone. She was also trying to find equality with her husband within the household, which was also a struggle that many women in the 70s were facing while she was working. So unions were again on the rise in the 70s. This time period had taken a hit as a in regards to unions had taken a hit in the late 1940s. So overall, Norma Rae is a second wave feminist in all aspects. She is pretty much just taking everything into her own hands and trying to make a place better for everyone, especially her family and her friends within this very small town. So that concludes my presentation, and there's references. Thanks for listening.